Hi, okay. Since things are going well for doing a couple of videos, I've got another one on my mind, which is let's see if we can call it bucket list aircraft. Now, aircraft is what I build mostly, but if you've only come into this channel in the last couple of months, you would have only seen motorbikes. And I have got a lot of aircraft. But can I actually make a bucket list of aircraft models? But before I get to that, I want to just look at this Spirit of St. Louis. I looked at it inside, and I said I want to do a quick review of how I will approach this model compared to the other one. Now, this is 2005. So this one, I don't know if that's the first time it was molded. You can have a look on ScaleMates. Tell me if that really is. 2005, first release. And it does look like it's molded very recently, very good moldings, compared to what did we see for this one? I don't have the box here now. Was this in the 50s? I forget now. That makes it, almost 5 decades difference, even if we say 4 decades difference in model technology. Mildly questionable. If you think about 4 decades of difference in actual aircraft development, and then you relate that through to model development, you would not think that 4 decades has passed. You'd probably think 1 decade has passed as far as this model development. Now, with this model, which I think I said, for its time, I guess one would have rated this a good 7 out of 10, but as a build that I've done in 2025, I'd have to rate the model, 5 or 6 out of 10, I guess, barely a 5 out of 10. But as a final product, of course, I liked it a lot. So what does that mean for this new molding, and how will I approach it differently? What did I do badly? I didn't fill all sink marks. So for instance, because there's a pin that goes into the wing there, you can see that sink mark. Sink marks occur in a lot of places where there's something underneath. There's another sink mark there. You can just catch that in the light. Now those to me are quite minor. If you'll remember, what I said I liked a lot about this build was the fact that the upper surface and lower surface of the wing met at the leading and trailing edge. Now that does give a slightly thicker trailing edge, but you'd hardly know it, but it makes for a very nice wing surface. As opposed to this one, I just want to show you quickly. So you see where that wing joins. Now, it doesn't even join on an aileron line. It just joins somewhere near the trailing edge. And that means that we have, unless the real aircraft actually has something there, which I highly doubt, I suspect this is just purely Revell trying to be clever by making a nice thin trailing edge, but causing a huge join line there. And you won't want to be filling there. I mean, you'll destroy so much. So that's got to be a really careful glue joint. And that would immediately cause me to knock off a good, okay, let's be fair, 1 out of 10. I'm going to knock off 1 out of 10 because of that manner of joining. Decals on this thing were absolutely a lost cause, but they wouldn't have been a lost cause at the time. They would have been a lot fresher. So I can't really fault them for their decals. It's just I happened to get the model 5 decades later. The manner in which they handled the joints of all the struts and everywhere was just okay. It was good enough. The wheels, as I was remember, they were quite loose, so I was going to put in a little bit of filler slot, a little piece of flash plastic. So when you get flash on, kits collect that flash for using as bits. But the flash sort of collected up in the hole, even though I tried a number of times to get it right, causing the wheel to not go in its full distance. So that's not a fault of the kit, that's my build fault. I also didn't fill those holes under the fuselage. I did brown gold on the cylinders a bit too much. I still have the pitot to put on, although I probably don't want to put it on because on this model I actually don't want anything sticking out. I didn't fill, for instance, that seam line in the nose, which is visible, but if I filled it, you'd lose the texture, so not possible. Or I should say, not for a person like me who's not prepared to, fill it and then do something to put all of that texture back. You see those two big sink marks there? Just near the edge there. So, there's quite a number of areas on this thing that are not up to standard, but you wouldn't know it if I didn't point them out to you. So this one I would expect should not have as many sink marks. We're going to assume that it's a much more accurate fuselage shape. Remember, I did point that out. You can see that interesting fuselage shape. It's got the ribs. Now, difficult to say. What one would like to say that Revell is absolutely more accurate, but it's a little bit odd that they didn't do that on that one, since it's not a detail that you can miss when you're looking at the aircraft. So I'll do a little bit of research and just make sure that those ribs are accurate. You can see the fin is done with an actual gap in between there, so that's very nice. I'm not seeing sink marks on there. This wing was a little bit, well, when I say a little bit warped, that's a fair bit warped, but it's something that'll correct with gluing pressure. The window will look right through into the cockpit, which is an improvement. It has got proper strut strengthening pieces according to the aircraft. So yeah, it loses, even though the ailerons are separate pieces there, you can see right through. The fact that it's got that line right across the whole aircraft is a huge letdown and wasn't necessary whatsoever. Single piece horizontal stabilizer with separated elevator, very good, very thin, very nice. Nose section does not have that texture, but keep in mind that it's not supposed to be a texture. It's a it's a buffing method of the stainless steel. Was stainless steel, wasn't it? That would make that a bit heavy. Just tell me what that was. I think it's steel. And for that they've supplied the decals. So they've given those decals for that effect. Now, if you think that those decals would look better than that, I'm not convinced. In fact, even when I just look at those decals close up, that pattern which they've got on there, if you look at the pattern of that, I can't remember the name, it's not Burling or something. We'll see what it looks like on the final product, but I'm not convinced that that's even remotely nice. It does have those good decals, which I'm happy with. And of course the whole decal sheet is a lot newer, so that's good. Engine has got a lot more. It's also got the Conrod, the pushrod section. Even if that pushrod section is not actually entirely flat, I will look at the real thing. It's got, it's got a lot more engine detail. So as a molded kit, very, very good. A lot better handling of many aspects. What did I want to show now? I saw something. There's another. The seat. The other kit has almost nothing on the interior, but there's also almost no place to see that. I gave a little, that's another thing. I gave a little bit of blackening around the door, but I really didn't do that well. Might try and rub some of that away. Whereas this one's door is separate. And you'd probably want to model that in the open position to try and get as best view inside. So you have a window, a door, you've got the top window, which is a minimal angle to see inside, to get to see so there's the beginning of the inside. There's the second lot of inside, so that structure in step 1. Fuel tank, frame, instrument, and controls. So that's the beginning section of the cockpit. I'd actually like to do that really nicely, but are you going to see much? So it'll probably be a case of I have to take photos of the model before it's assembled. Afterwards, you'll see a little bit inside. So engine compared to this one, which just had the one part, just that one ring of tappet covers that you get to see with the very top of the cylinder. Wheels, they have done one good thing for us. So the one side of the wheel is not on there, it's not molded on, which means you can paint the tire properly. On the other side it is there, and this time it's very flat. So I can put a sticker on there. So that means I'll have to paint silver first, cut the center out so that I can get over that little blob in the middle. Well, it's not a blob, it's the nut. Mask that very accurately with a circle, which I'd have to cut out carefully, and paint the tire both sides. So that's much better handled. Is that the inside? Yes, okay. The other part is just almost a flat disc for the wheel. So a lot of attention to be given So I notice one of those exhaust outlets is broken off. That's not the worst to model back in. Not bad engine detail. Very good clear pieces. So yeah, I would rate this one. I would have rated it probably a 9 out of 10, but I'm going to have to say that because of those somewhat oddly done decals, because I'm sure most of you have seen what it looks like, that particular buffed, that particular method that they do with the little circles on what I would assume should be thin stainless. Would it be? I'll have to go and check that up. And this line, that's really the only two things. The breakage of the little exhaust piece is not a fault of the manufacturer. Surprisingly, they've molded that in one. That's odd and unnecessary. Maybe take one off because of that. That's always weird when they do that. That's not very forward thinking. Anyway, 8 out of 10 for looking like a good kit to build, and I'm sure it will make a very nice kit of the Spirit of St. Louis. I think there's a few box arts. That's that one. Now, if you remember, when I painted this, I mixed up a special silver. I mixed up a grey and a silver because normal silver is way too bright, and I was very happy with this silver paint for the aircraft, silver grey, and then the Alclad chrome, but a toned down chrome for the nose section. With the wheel flattening, by the way, with the wheel flattening, those wheels are not straight down. They're slightly inward canted, but I have to check if that's true on the real aircraft. Don't know if I'll be able to find a photo of it exactly like that, which also means that your flattening needs to have been at a bit of an angle, which mine was not. I just took the wheel and flattened it as if it was a straight up mounted wheel. Okay, let's get to the good part. Point 1, this is not a list of what I want to buy. I hardly want to buy anything anymore. This is a bucket list of aircraft that I would say that I really, really should build out of all the aircraft that I like. See if we can get a pen that works. And it is really actually not the easiest thing to do, because if you take my collection, I've got a whole stack there of old Airfix. I like all of them, but that doesn't make them bucket list items, and I'm highly likely to build them sooner than some of my bucket list items. But I like them because they're old Airfix. I brought this one out. Is this a bucket list item? Much as I like the Sky Raider and will be building the Sky Raider, is it necessarily a bucket list aircraft? And I'd have to say not really. It's highly likely I am going to build it. So the bucket list is not stuff that I am going to build or that I like very much. It's stuff that I almost feel I have to build because they were so important either in aviation or just in my interest in aviation. So number 1 has to be a Concorde. And I almost have to say that it has to include a 144th and a 172nd. So that's two bucket list items, both being the Concorde. I am building the B1. I would have called that a bucket list item because I haven't built one before. It's a very important aircraft. I like it very much. So even though I'm actually busy on it, the B1 is one of those. You remember I got myself that Hustler, the B58 Hustler, which is also very nice, but I don't think it's really an item that I would put on my bucket list here. So what about some more of the airliners? The A380, obviously I will be doing. It's a very large airliner, and it is probably something that I'm going to put on here. But if it wasn't the A380, it could just have been any other of my large airliners. I've got that Boeing 787 over there, which would be just as good, but the A380 is the biggest of them all. I probably think it does actually deserve that, deserve a spot on there. Now I've got F117. I've got a very nice 148 F117. I've built the 172nd. Does that mean that the 148th one really deserves that slot? I'll put it as an optional. I do like it because of its oddity. That 132nd Phantom of mine, I can't really say that that's a bucket list. I like it a lot. I will be building it, but I can't say it's a bucket list aircraft. Oh, the one that's so obvious that I tend to leave it off all my lists, and in fact it wouldn't even occupy one slot, it would occupy multiple slots, but I'm going to be fair and only put it once, and that is the Harvard. So the 148th Harvard, of which I have many and have built many and will continue to build many. But that's just like, it's so high on my list that it's ever present. This one really a bucket list build? I've told you I like it a lot. It is one that I have not yet built, but then again I also haven't built many other multi-engine World War II aircraft. What makes this one slightly more special? This one was standing in a, I don't even know what you would call this place. It was not a museum, but when I was young there was a place where there were a number of old World War II things standing on display, including even a locomotive, an armored vehicle, this aircraft, a Vampire, a Harvard. And as such, it sort of really got etched into my memory, so to speak. So I probably would say that not necessarily this absolute one, but I mean, there's no reason not to list this specific one. So more than, for instance, a Catalina, I would say that the Ventura goes on my list. A Catalina is different enough. I'm going to write that as an optional. So with a Sunderland. But so far I've got 6 items. What else could possibly be an aircraft? And I'm not really heading towards large stuff. I've done that. You just can't see it behind me. Oh, there, is that it? Yes, the Vulcan. So that Vulcan is really awesome and would have, but I have built that now. I'm still open to getting the new one, but I'm not going to, it's not something that I want to go looking for. What about this huge 124th? Is that one down there? That Typhoon. Awesome model, but it's not one of those that I'll be sorry I should have built it, so I can't put that on the list. So you see, I'm really struggling to actually find the difference between stuff that I would build and like building and enjoy building, but that actually really needs to go onto a list of should never be left out. I recently did an SR-71 and I have one more over there, which I do like very much, but I've sort of done that one now, so can't really put on another one. We have the other B1, but since I'm busy on the one, I'm only putting on one there. The large Spitfire, I've got the 124th Spitfire, but I don't feel that that needs to go on the list. No Phantoms are going on the list. No F-14s or anything like that. So I'm stuck at barely 6 aircraft. Yep, I can't think of any other aircraft that is so important. So I guess I must include the Catalina then, since I'm just running out of, and the Sunderland. And I have one of each of them over there. The Whitley I won't put on the list. The Wellington I won't put on the list. The Shackleton I won't put on the list. Halifax I'm not going to put on the list. Sterling, no. Lancaster, no. I do have a Mirage that I need to build, and I have put that one off. I'm going to actually put on the F1 Mirage. That is a very, very nice Esky, yes. So I am at, that's 148, and I'm only going to go up to 10. So what would I leave as such an important aircraft for my interests that I really have to put it on? I don't really want to put on a Boeing 747, and I think we've covered enough of airliners. I can't think of a single engine that, because I've built so many of them, so I've sort of covered that all. They don't really fall into bucket list aircraft. And the small Airfix, again, I've built so many of them. Warbird, so many. I don't think I'd want to put a helicopter onto here. One that comes slightly close is the Viking, the Lockheed Viking aircraft, and specifically the Airfix one, not a later Hasegawa one. Again, for the nostalgia aspect more than anything else, and it's bigger than the smallest of the aircraft, and I'm trying to see. Yeah, I just don't feel it's that important, so I'm sort of, again, I don't see anything that's really jumping out at me. So my bucket list of aircraft is actually not very significant. I've got some interesting things like that Mohawk I've got over there. I've got the Sky Raiders, and the one Sky Raider is actually slightly progressed, so that's probably one that will be getting done next year. Civilian light aircraft, civilian medium aircraft, possibly. I could put the B2 on, but I don't really want to go buying, and they're rather expensive, so I'm not going to put the B2 onto here, though it's different enough for it to warrant that place. The F-35 Lightning being one of the absolute latest aircraft in aviation. Maybe I'll do that. F-35 1/48 scale. Concorde, B1, A380, Harvard, Ventura, Catalina, Sunderland, F1 Mirage, and F-35. I can't have a bucket list of motorbikes. There are no motorbikes that stand out more than any other motorbikes. They're all just great motorbikes in the range. They're all great models. I don't particularly have the cars that I've got is the cars that I've got. I've got the Porsches and Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and that's more or less that. As I said, all in all, less than 10 cars. I definitely don't have a bucket list of armor. Absolutely not. So really it only comes down to a list of aircraft that I really would like to have done, and my bucket list of around 20, which I will still compile a complete list and maybe try and pack them all into one single view so that we can see them all, and spread out the actual bucket list items over about 2 years. The bucket list aircraft don't really need to be spread out over any number of years. But if I do 2 or maybe 3 of them a year, that already takes care of it in just over 3 years. Sunderland's waiting there, Catalina's waiting there, Ventura I've got, Harvard's I've got inside, A380 we've started looking at, B1's in progress. The 172nd Concorde is not difficult at all. The bigger one is, sorry, the 144th is not difficult at all. The 172nd is pretty difficult, as in not a fast build. Really need to be paying attention for that one. And the F-35 is not a fast one. The F-1 Mirage, much better. Lot simpler. In fact, I got a couple of F-35s and I need to choose which one. I think there was one with some interesting decal. So actually that's the manner in which I will choose which F-35 to build. Oh, it was the prototype. I think it's the prototype that has the nicest decal set. Yep. As opposed to those that went into use. So I'm actually going to put here prototype. Now, of these bucket list aircraft, are there any that I would build with greater effort, like as in 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 effort into the build versus my usual sort of 7 out of 10? You know, I like to get it done somewhat fast, not be ridiculous, not go over the top in detail. The small Concorde, you can't really. The larger Concorde, I don't want to know. The A380, no, that's enough of a challenge as it is. The Harvards, yes, definitely. This Ventura, I don't think one needs to do anything more than what the kit offers. Catalina, no. Sunderland, no. F1 Mirage, no. And F-35 prototype, no. So none of these on my bucket list except the Harvard is one that gets special attention, extra detailing. Okay, that covers that. Back to the model bench.